Hey guys, Drak here. So I'm not gonna lie to people, it's like 2:30 in the morning, and I've been having tons of problems here. So if you guys aren't seeing this YouTube video until much later, it is because for some reason I've been having some internet issues, specifically with Google services. I can't upload or watch YouTube videos, and I have not been able to understand why. But I've also been hard at work today because if you guys have seen my previous video, I did kind of a rant on my thoughts on Warlords of Draenor as a whole for World of Warcraft. And this time, in this video, I'm going to be talking about the just barely dropped new expansion for World of Warcraft, Legion, which, like I said, just barely aired. I have spent a good portion of today not only going around and doing errands and stuff like that, but also doing my homework on this expansion as much as I could so that I could bring as accurate an opinion as I could to you guys, because I know a couple of people have been texting and emailing me asking, okay, what do you think of this, and are you going to bring it to Geek News? I will probably just reference this video in Geek News. So I'm just going to go over the recap of the Legion announcement. And again, if I begin to stammer or whatnot, it's 2:30 in the morning, so that's kind of why. But I will give you as good a presentation as I can, because I love you guys. I love you. Okay. So basically, the recap is I'm trying to think of the best place to start. So we got a new continent, which is the Broken Isles. And I actually had to bring up a map because I could not remember the zone or the zone names to save my life. So the way that this is supposed to open up is we're going to get a quest line that begins even before Legion comes out, that is going to take us to the place of lore, the Tomb of Sargeras. I'm going to assume you guys, I don't know why I did that. I'm going to assume you guys are WoW fans. It's going to take us to the Tomb of Sargeras, where we're going to find out that Gul'dan, who has survived his encounter at Hellfire Citadel, has opened up a portal for the Burning Legion to invade Azeroth. And this is going to be the biggest invasion since the War of the Ancients 10,000 years ago. So that's a lot, considering. I think the War of the Ancients is the biggest conflict that the Legion has ever been on Azeroth for. So we're going to start there, and then there will be they didn't go too much into detail, but there will be a cataclysmic event, so to speak, and it will basically kind of like Cataclysm, but not really. It's gonna put our world into kind of a nightmare scenario where Legion is everywhere and we have to fight to get our world back. So actually, here's where I will start. So a lot of people actually did ask me, so what were your theories on what the next expansion would be? And compared to other YouTubers, I had kind of an unusual one. I thought a lot of people did, where there was either going to be like a Naga expansion, in the vein of either the Dark Below or Eye of Ashara. Either that or a Burning Legion expansion, because Warlords of Draenor heavily hints at that. But the third idea that I'd actually had was, so much stuff got scrapped for Warlords of Draenor. I wonder if it didn't just hit the cutting room floor, if Blizzard just said, you know what, we can't do this in Warlords, so the next expansion will take place on Draenor, and it will be going to, the Fields of Farallon, or to the mysterious Ogre continent that they talked a lot about at the Warlords reveal. BlizzCon. But that's not the case. So I was playing it safe there and saying we were going to stay on Draenor. No, we're coming back to Azeroth, which is good. But my first two theories kind of got merged. So basically, this is going to be a mixture of Legion, because obviously the Legion is invading, but other races and factions are kind of taking advantage of the fact that the Legion is out there and kind of siding with them. So one of them is the Naga. And with the Naga comes the old gods. So at that point, we're going to get something merging the two. But yeah, back to the map. So we're going to have this cataclysmic event, and we're going to end up on the Broken Shores. And that's going to start up the quest line where a major feature in the game will get added, and I will get to that in a little bit. And then I'm just going to go through the zones, probably not in the same order that they did. First of all, Valshara. So Valshara is supposedly, like, this place is steeped in lore. This is basically kind of the central part of Azeroth before it's split apart in the Great Sundering after the War of the Ancients. So Valshara is lore significant because it is where Druids started. So all Druid fans out there will love, according to Alex Afrasiabi, we will love that because this is where, like, Malfurion became the first Druid under Cenarius, and the story will be very Druidic. And I actually think that considering the new website that just popped up, and one of the character traits was Gen Greymane, I actually wonder if the Worgen are also going to have a major part in that, because this is going to be Druidic history. So it looks really good. It looks like a darker version of Mount Hyjal, if people remember that from Cataclysm. All I have really to go with are the first kind of looks into the zone, and some screenshots that were leaked at the unveiling at Gamescom. And so I guess the main threat in Valshara is actually going to be the Satyr Xavius, or the former Highborn Xavius. And this has actually created a bit of confusion. So not only have I been watching the Gamescom review, I've also been watching a lot of WoW community videos, in particular Final Boss TV and Novel. And they have been kind of sitting here going, wait, I thought Xavius was taken care of. So did I. I actually haven't completely read the novel Stormrage, but I believe he gets taken care of in it. Turns out, no, he's going to get a second chance, even though this is technically his third chance. So this is kind of the funny part. Xavius's first chance was with the demons, and then he got a second chance with the old gods. And so now he's got chance number 3. I'm guessing 3 strikes and you're out. But we don't know who's giving him this, and I like that idea. I like the mists, so to speak, surrounding that. But we're going to be fighting a lot of satyrs and fighting back the corruption of the original World Tree Sheladrisil, I think is what it's called. Excited for it. I like the fact that we're getting kind of a druidic zone, a kind of a natural zone, but it's dark. So the next zone that I'm going to go into is Asuna, which caught my eye because of a lot of the discussion that Alex got into, which was basically that we're going to have a lot of Naga involvement. And again, going to the Legion website, there is a featured Naga Tide Mistress on there. So that's why I'm saying this is not necessarily just a demon expansion. This is a Naga expansion too. We're going to be fighting against the Naga. They're even getting a 5-man out of it. And we're going to be, I'm guessing, contending with this Tide Mistress mostly, but they actually did hint that Queen Ajara is going to be a part of that as well. So I'm excited about that. But that's mainly the conflict there, is that on these Broken Isles, we're going to be trying to collect Pillars of Creation, which are Titan relics that would help us to either repair the world or help us to seal the tear that the Legion is coming through. They weren't very clear on it. And Asuna actually has one of these I can't talk right now. Has one of these Pillars of Creation, and we're going to be racing the Naga to it. The next zone that we're going to get into is High Mountain, which is, somebody ought to send this over to Ghostcrawler, because I would love to see his Twitter reaction. I remember way back when he wanted like a moose mount, because of, I think there were Olympics going on in Canada at the time, and he was like, where's my moose? Well, Ghostcrawler, you're not working with Blizzard anymore, so how do you feel about getting your moose? So we're going to get moose-like Tauren in High Mountain, and also we're going to get a whole new race called the Drogbar, which look like just taller trogs. I'm not going to lie, that at least from what I've seen in game art, I haven't really seen any concept art for them. But we're also going to get a lot of aspect lore in High Mountain, which was really cool. We're going to get to see the original lair of the Earth Warden Altharion, who, if people know their lore, is the Black Dragon aspect Deathwing, who is very much dead right now. but we're going to get to explore it because apparently the Drogbar moved in after he moved out. So we're going to be able to explore that. They've actually got one of the other pillars of creation, and we're going to have to get that from the Drogbar Underking. And basically, the concept art that I was seeing for a lot of this was mountainous areas, kind of swampy, but mostly like tall peaks, which I love that idea, especially since this is... I'm kind of done with the fact that it's a new race of Tauren. Man, Tauren got around because, I mean, you not only had Tauren, you had the Northrend ones, which were basically like buffalo. Then you had the Pandaria ones that were like yaks. And now we have Moose Tauren. So I have a feeling... dude, and here's the thing. Blizzard... If there is not one of those Taurens that it doesn't have a Bullwinkle reference, you missed out. Because that's an obvious joke that could happen. And I want him to have a little pet squirrel. Like, named Pocky or whatever. So that's High Mountain. Stormheim. This was an interesting one because it involved lore that I didn't expect. It is a Vrykul zone. So if people remember the Vrykul, we haven't seen them since Northrend... Mostly Northrend, and the Vashir storyline in Cataclysm, which was the Kavaldir, which we now actually got a little bit of answer to that. They're based heavily in Norse mythology, and so the Kavaldir are actually like cursed souls. And I love that idea. You know, it's like the dishonored dead are the Kavaldir, and I'm not that brushed up on Norse mythology, so I thought that was really cool. But Stormheim is actually going to be a Vrykul base zone. The justification that they had was that a section of Vrykul actually left Northrend to try and find their equivalent of Valhalla, and they ended up at Stormheim. And Stormheim is... I'm not kidding, that's the actual name of it. It's kind of hard to say, Stormheim. And during this, we're actually going to have two conflicts. First of all, two Titan Keepers, which... Some of the WoW community were already assuming that one of them was Tyr. I don't remember his name being mentioned at all. But, again, I'm not able to watch the YouTube videos right now, so I tried to confirm that, and I can't confirm it. And then the other one we don't know. That is one of the conflicts that is going on right now. So they're battling in Stormheim. The other one is that the Legion has infiltrated the Vrykul ranks and gotten a hold of their leader, the God King. We don't know what his name is. And so he's trying to, or the Legion is trying to influence the Vrykul their direction. And so we've got to go in and we've got to stop that. And we're going to get two instances out of Stormheim alone. One of which is going to be a leveling instance, which is the Halls of Valor. And I'll go more into the details in the instances part. And then the other one is basically the equivalent of the Ride to Hell in Norse mythology, and that was basically the way they advertised that was a take on Grimrail Depot from Warlords, and I actually like that instance, so I'm interested in what they will do with this in particular. And then the last major zone is Suramar. So Suramar is, I believe, if I remember correctly from Frozen Throne, basically where the capital city of the Highborn was. So when you go into the Well of Eternity instance, that's where it was based, is in Suramar. And the interesting part of this is that we thought everybody was wiped out at Suramar, and now they're actually saying, no, a new elven race has spawned in Suramar called the Nightborn. And they have sided with the Legion, and they have, specifically, they've sided with Gul'dan. So... First of all, that makes me intrigued because it's a new elven race, and I would love to see what they look like. Two, they have a functioning well still. So presumably the Well of Eternity is still working, except now it's being called the Night Well and channeling shadow energy. So that already looks cool. And then on top of that, Gul'dan is like pretty much hiding behind them, and the Legion is coming in to help protect the final pillar of creation, which is in Suramar. And funniest thing, one of the raids is actually going to be going into Suramar City to claim this pillar of creation from Gul'dan. So Gul'dan already has it. So we're going to be taking it back. So I love that concept. There is another zone called Thaldranath, which I don't think they went into in any detail. I may be wrong about that, and if I am, please let me know. Right now, the assumption is, because I know I wasn't the only one that thought that. I think Nobble and Bay from Final Boss thought that might be the leveling zone of the Demon Hunter, and I know that's not correct, because they actually do say the planet that the Demon Hunters will start off, and I just spoiled that. But the other cool thing is that the capital city has been announced, and it is Dalaran. So Dalaran is making a return from Wrath of the Lich King. Totally excited about that. It's my favorite capital city. And on top of that, one thing I actually just barely noticed on the map that wasn't mentioned, there is a spot saying Acaris. And so I wonder if that's going to play into one of the other features of Legion. I want to say Warlords of Legion, but it's Legion. I'm so used to the 3-word titles. What can I say? So that's pretty much the map. I was very excited with all the zones that I saw pictures of, and I'm more interested in the stuff that I'm just barely discovering on the map that didn't get talked about. So the second feature I'm going to get into is artifact weapons. So if people remember, I was talking about the Broken Shores, and after this cataclysmic event, our questing line will start there. And the way that it will start is that during this cataclysmic event, and here's the thing, Alex was not clear on this, so anything I say right now is not confirmed. But he basically made it sound like either the lore-based heroes that we've been traveling with for so many years will either fall to the shadow, like as in die, possibly, or they will lose all hope, and they will not want to continue on. And in turn, if they are wielding a weapon of legendary power, for example, one of the ones that got brought up was Tyrion Fordring and the Ashbringer, you might actually get you'll get a quest to take up the Ashbringer as your own. Now, that is for paladins only, and here's the thing too. Every spec gets a unique weapon to their class, and you will actually be leveling this weapon during your expansion. So what I mean by that is the way they explained it, for people who remember Cataclysm when it was first announced, there was a system called Path of the Titans. And this really looks like, since that system was scrapped before Cataclysm hit, it looks like they implemented it here in the weapons, in the artifact system. So you basically will get kind of a talent tree with your weapon, and you get to level up your weapon as you go, increasing it in power and becoming even more awesome than you are. And some of the examples that they used were, so like Retribution Paladins would get the Ashbringer, whereas Frost Death Knights would actually go to Icecrown Citadel and collect the shards of Frostmourne, the former blade of the Lich King, and you would forge them into 2 rune blades called Icebringer and Soul Reaper. And so that was really cool. Another example that they gave was that threw a lot of people off is they actually are creating unique weapons for this expansion, one of which is a spear called the Eagle Spear, which is for survival hunters. That threw a lot of people off, and I'm still hearing people going like, okay, does that mean survival hunters are getting like this massive overhaul? Because hunters have been using bows for a long time. They haven't been using melee weapons. So has survival become the melee hunter spec? We don't know. But the spear kind of hints at that. I would almost say that it looks like a spear, but it also looks like there's a bit of a drawstring. So it's just like, maybe it's a funky spear bow kind of thing. I can't confirm that. But those are some of the examples that they gave. The other one also that threw a lot of people off was Enhancement Shamans will get the Doom Hammer. So the weapon wielded by Thrall himself will be in a character's hands. This was and a lot of people were joking about this. This was a promise that was made in Warlords of Draenor. There was a little kid that came up in a Q&A and asked, who is going to get the Doom Hammer? And their answer was, you will. You know, you as a character. It didn't happen in Warlords, but it's happening now. Now, this has led to a lot of speculation as to whether or not Alex meant that people will die. Because, look, I don't like prescribing to the joke, but Thrall is Green Jesus. And it's so unlikely in my head that Blizzard would ever kill Thrall. But at the same time, I can't explain the Doom Hammer being in a shaman's hands other than Thrall. So either he loses all hope and just retires in disgrace, which I don't see Blizzard doing, or he goes out swinging. One of the two. And I'm speculating on that, so don't get mad at me for it. But those were some of the artifact weapons that got kind of hinted at. The other thing that was cool involving the artifact weapons was their answer to garrisons in Legion. And so they even admit that they made some problems with the garrison. They gave you too many followers. They made it way too easy to just log in, log off in your garrison and not have anything to do with the world. Especially how dumb that was because, you know, Draenor was supposed to be the savage world and we were supposed to be so integrated into it. And you could just log off in your garrison and be completely safe. I expected to some extent in the beta, like we would be hearing about these invasions happening while you're not even there. And so you come back and like your garrison's dead. You know, with the way they were talking about how savage things were. And I almost want to make the Devil May Cry joke. Savage! Because how many times they actually said it. But in this one, their answer is that they will create class order halls. What that is basically is kind of going in line with the whole concept of you will get this artifact weapon, this legendary weapon of lore for your class, and you will have to rebuild. So, like, the best way to look at it is paladins have been completely dismembered. Like, there's no paladin order anymore, and Tyrion has lost all hope, and he hands you the Ashbringer. So at that point, you are the person who holds the Ashbringer, which means you are the most powerful, as far as anybody else is concerned, you are the most powerful paladin ever. And so, like King Arthur with the Excalibur, you kind of create your own round table of only people of your class. So lore-specific characters of your class. The example that they gave, again, was paladins. And so you'd be able to recruit, like, Lady Leodrin if you were on the Horde side, because she's a prominent Blood Elf paladin. And that's a cool idea. The other thing, too, is that, like, the best example for it is Acheris the Ebon Hold. Funniest thing that got mentioned on the map. And that's where the Death Knights are resided. It's going to act like that. So you will only be able to see paladins on your server in the Paladin Order Hall. Same thing with Acheris the Ebon Hold. I have a feeling for Druids, the Moonglade is going to get blocked off. And this will be only a place for your class to congregate. And you will also get followers like the Garrison, but you will get less followers. And you are not just necessarily sending them off on missions. They might actually bring you along for some of those missions as well, which was kind of a cool prospect. A lot of people were complaining that, you know, it sounded like their Garrison followers were going on way cooler missions than they were. And this is kind of Blizzard's answer. So sometimes you will accompany them. So the leveling experience will be increased to level 110. Not surprised by that, because a 10 level expansion, I think, works better than a 5 level. They experimented with that in Cataclysm and Mists of Pandaria, and it didn't really pan out. But Warlords having a 10 level bracket was very helpful and actually allowed for more storytelling, in my opinion. So I'm kind of glad about that. The only thing that kind of frustrates me is that, excuse me, the leveling boost, which came with Warlords of Draenor and immediately boosted you to level 90 so you could go with your friends into Draenor, it is getting boosted up to 100. And I don't see, like most of the WoW community, I do not see a reason why. Aside from you get to go quest with your friends. But you could do that in Draenor, and really 20 levels, that's not a whole lot of difference. You know, where they introduced the boost, it was 90 levels, so that made sense. But just increasing it another 10 levels so that people can go right into the new expansion, especially when that new expansion leads into this story, which, all things aside, actually hints at that. I don't get it. I would think you would want them to experience that storyline and then come to the Broken Isles, but that's the way they've decided to do it. The other thing that I'm going to get into is the new honor system for PvPers. I'm not a big PvP fan, but I have friends that are. And so now they're going to go with a new honor system, which basically is a PvP-based talent spec. that will go specifically to your class, specifically to your spec, and you can customize it however you want. And on top of that, it's separate enough that like you will only be in this spec in Battlegrounds, the way they made it sound, which is pretty much what PvPers have been asking for a while. I mean, I know a lot of people who do both who just had a big collective sigh of relief when that got announced, because they get so sick and tired of recustomizing their talents for PvP when they have a PvP kick, PvP kick in the week. So I think that's going to be a great idea. It also is going to mirror another MMO system where you will level up, and once you hit the cap, you will get a button saying prestige. And if you hit that prestige button, you basically reset your honor, but now you can pursue things like cosmetic items. And that was another cool concept with the artifact weapons, was you could customize your Ashbringer or your Doomhammer to look how you want it to, which I have a feeling a lot of transmoggers are going to enjoy that. I know I will. So, and there will be a PvP only classification. So that encourages people like me who don't PvP that much. If I like that coloring or that unique look, then I can do it. So the new honor system looks really good, and a good step in the right direction, because also you can get PvP-based abilities. So at that point, that actually, I think, solves a lot of balance issues. So a lot of abilities have been tossed out of the game because they would work well in PvE, but they wouldn't in PvP. They'd be broken. And so Blizzard has just tossed them. And it's like, why do that? You like this ability, so make it only available when you're in PvP. This fixes that. So I think Blizzard is very satisfied with what they've done on this. And so the new honor system, I like it. New dungeons and raids. Obviously, those come with new expansions. But one of the things I did like about their announcement is that they are putting more of a focus on dungeons than raids. And what I mean by that is in Warlords, we had a few dungeons. I want to say just under 10. And we didn't get any new ones. But in this one, we're going to get a lot of dungeons, apparently, according to them, and we're only going to get 2 intro raids. So kind of like how Warlord started, where we got access to the first raid 2 weeks later, and then like a month or 2 later, we got access to the second raid. So they like that idea from Warlords. I love that idea because it allows for people to enjoy the content and not have to just immediately work up to raid progression. We can actually sit back and enjoy the story, which I think was a great idea in Warlords, by the way. But not only that, the way that they kind of made it sound is like in kind of teaming up with the order halls, some of these dungeons might have like unique areas that are only accessible if you're doing this quest with this paladin, and therefore you can technically walk into an instance you've been in there 100 times and get a whole new experience out of it. Love that idea. In fact, I even heard like talk of people saying, introduce that to raids. Love that idea. Because, I mean, you can just have a follower there and you don't have to experience like the whole raid. You can just experience a tiny little split off part, and it still looks awesome and it's still polished and it's great. So I love that idea, and I love the fact that there's more of an emphasis on dungeons rather than raids, because dungeons are easier to set up, in my opinion. I love raiding, and I will always love raiding, but it's hard to set up a raid. It's way easier to set up a dungeon. And I love the fact that when 6.2 came out, we got like a harder difficulty dungeon. We got mythic dungeons. So at that point, I would love to see some of these dungeons, if they're long enough, maybe get like a different kind of lockout so you can take your friends in a second day and just run through that instance and enjoy the story. So I love that idea. Some of the ideas that they had for the instances, let me see if I can actually dig these up. Let's see here. We have... So, okay, I'm going to bring up a couple of these names. And we got shown a few of them, but not a whole lot. So we got the Hall of Valor, which I got into, which is basically the Vrykul equivalent of Valhalla. And you get to go in there and take care of the God King that is corrupting the Vrykul. And that's going to be a leveling experience. The other one was the equivalent of the Ride to Hell, which I think was called Helheim, appropriate, and in inspiration to Grimrail Depot, which was 80% on a moving train. This one's actually going to have you like on a ship of the damned and probably like rocking with the waves. And that's going to be an interesting concept for them to pull off, especially if they do it well. So those are two examples from Stormheim. There was also the Vault of the Wardens, which is the kind of place where the Wardens, like, if you know the character Maya of Shadow Song and her conflict with Illidan Stormrage, then you will be able to go to the place where they imprison people like Illidan. And I'm assuming you're going to go there and fight the Wardens, because Maya is kind of crazy at this point, which the website clearly states. I'll get into that story in a second. But so you have that. You also have the Eye of Ashara, which I kind of giggled when I saw this. I'm like, okay, but you reserved Eye of Ashara was because you wanted to do a dungeon with it, and it's a race with the Naga. So I'm really interested in that. They're also going to bring back the Violet Hold, but I'm really hoping they don't recycle it. I want to see a new section of the Violet Hold with new enemies, and that way there's a distinction between the two. You know, like we get a higher res version of the Violet Hold with new enemies to encounter. Another one that they also brought up was the Lair of Naltharion, which again is held by the Drak. Apparently they made a village in there, but that's the original lair of Deathwing before he went nuts. And so it's supposed to be like this really huge cave. I'm actually thinking this might be bigger than Deepholm, which would be even better. And the other one that threw me off was Blackrook Hold. And this is the mansion or the stronghold of a night elf general named Ravencrest. And you actually, kind of like Black Temple, will start in the basement and work your way up to the spire, because a new unnameable threat has taken over Ravencrest Manor, and you will have to chase them out. So these instances already sound very interesting. I can't wait to see like intro videos from people who actually get into the beta early to see what these instances are going to look like, how long they are, and how they're going to work. Because just like Blackrook Hold, when they introduced the raids, so the two raids, one of them is Suramar City, which you're going to be going in to claim, again, the Pillar of Creation that Gul'dan has. But like Black Temple, you're going to be starting in from like the sewers and working your way up into the city itself. And I love the layout of Black Temple. I think that was a perfect idea for you to have to sneak in the back way so nobody knew you were there, and having to work your way through the temple itself. I like that idea. It does take a while, but it tells a story as you're going along. So I like that idea. The other one is the Emerald Nightmare. I don't know how many years people have been begging for an Emerald Dream expansion, and this is probably the closest you're going to get. We are going to go into the Emerald Dream to stop Xavius and the expanding Emerald Nightmare from coming into Azeroth. This is kind of where it hints at the old gods maybe being involved, because if Xavius is still the Nightmare Lord, then the old gods N'Zoth actually appointed him there. So we actually might be going into like an old god infested Emerald Dream, and that is absolutely cool. So the other thing that I want to get into, and I've been kind of pussyfooting along it, is the new class. So we're going to get a new hero class, and man, Blizzard, I know you're going to drop that hero part of it pretty soon, because people are going to complain and you're going to nerf it through the floor. The Demon Hunter got announced. So if people love Illidan Stormrage, you will now be able to technically play as Illidan Stormrage, and with some unique story features. So the story apparently with a new Demon Hunter, we don't know when they'll start up, but the way they've defined a hero class is that you will start at a high level and you will work through a unique story experience, kind of like with the Death Knights and how you had to do their story before you could start leveling in older content. So the way that this is set up is the Death Knights, or the Demon Hunters will... See, this is already... I'm starting to do it. The Demon Hunters will start in the Black Temple, and they will get a special assignment from Illidan. So this will be back in Burning Crusade days, where they had to go and take on a suicide mission, so to speak. They had to go to the Legion world of Mardum, which is actually where the Legion technically starts, because that's the Volt world where the Titan Sargeras actually imprisoned demons before he went nuts and shattered that planet and took in all the demons and made the Legion. So you have to go to this planet, which is, as far as we know, deep in Legion territory, and you have to do something there. We don't know what, but apparently that gets you in trouble with the Wardens, and eventually they pass time a little bit, and you were in the Vault of the Wardens. Yes, the same instance, and you're working your way out of it. So that's the interesting part. Where in the Vault of the Wardens dungeon, you're going to be working your way into it. As a demon hunter, you'll be working your way out. So I like that idea, trying to free yourself. They also went into the concepts of the demon hunter, gave a couple of abilities. It looked really good. It really fleshed out the lore and the flavor of the class. Now, the unique thing that I've already seen a couple of people complain about is the fact that the demon hunter will only have 2 specs. You can be a melee DPSer or you can be a tank. And I don't disagree with Blizzard's decision on this, because the only other role that they could do is like either a caster, which would basically make the demon hunter a warlock, and there would be no distinction between the two. Or how are you going to make a demon hunter healing spec? What? He siphons off his own health to give it to you? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So I like the fact that there are only 2 specs. And that way they can be fleshed out and they can be given such great lore to it. Especially since the way that they kind of made it sound is if you're going to go melee DPS, you might prefer weapons like Warglaives, but as a tank, you might prefer the Metamorphosis turning into a demon form that is armored so that you can protect your allies. So that really fleshes out the lore of that character. The other thing that was unique that a lot of people were very happy about, especially explorers, is the added new ability of a double jump, because demon hunters are especially agile and they should be able to double jump. So I have a feeling I'm going to see a ton of explorers out there on demon hunters, because that's the only way to get it done. So that was another unique feature that we got. They also can charge pretty frequently, kind of like the warriors, except it's more integrated into their system. And I think that pretty much covers all the demon hunter stuff that we know. Oh, only night elves and blood elves can be demon hunters, which makes sense with the lore. I kind of wanted to see some other races maybe take it on, but I'm at least happy about the fact that we're going to get the demon hunter. Whether or not I'm going to switch my class, I don't know, but it's going to be cool to play out this character, which kind of goes into the lore of this game. So a lot of people have been begging for Illidan Stormrage to return, because a lot of people, including me, think that he got the shaft in Burning Crusade. He was a fairly early on boss, and he technically wasn't the end of the expansion. You know, Wrath of the Lich King followed the Lich King from beginning to end, and in Burning Crusade, it was clear fairly early on that even though Illidan was in it, he was not the end focus. And that was disappointing to a lot of people. A lot of people, like me, think he kind of got the raw end of the deal. He didn't get a whole lot of lore to him. And they're making up for that. So the way that the story is going to go is that it looks like he is in some way going to fuel this portal that the Legion is going to be flooding out of. We don't know exactly how, except for a cutscene that will be put into the game eventually, where we find out what happened with Gul'dan after Hellfire Citadel, and he ended up in the Vault of the Wardens. Here's where things are going to get weird, and I swear this is what the website says, so don't blame me, blame Blizz. Maiev Shadowsong, who has been hunting Illidan for so long, takes his body to the Vault of the his dead body, to the Vault of the Wardens, to make it serve the rest of his sentence, which was eternal. But he's dead. Moving on. The argument is that he's like part demon. So, believe that or not, this is what happens. Gul'dan eventually finds his coffin, so to speak, and takes him to the Tomb of Sargeras and somehow uses him to open up this portal. So, in essence, what it sounds to me like is you're going to go and see maybe a resurrected Illidan, probably not, but you will be able to, in order to fix this whole problem, you might actually have to either truly kill, or purify Illidan. And one of the things that's gotten brought up at a lot of BlizzCons is redeeming Illidan, and whether or not people want to do that. And Chris Metzen has made it very clear he loves redemption stories, and that might be the direction that they're going here, is that they want to redeem Illidan as a character. Now, I'm an Illidan fan, and I like this idea, but I'm still kind of creeped out by the whole idea that Maiev took his dead body back to his cell. But if it means I get to see more Illidan, then I guess I can't really complain. And he is on the box art, so I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of him. Or maybe we won't. We don't know at this point, but he's obviously part of the Demon Hunter lore. He's the one that sends you on the suicide mission, so it'll be interesting. But that's basically the majority of the stuff that we heard today. Also, we heard that the beta will probably begin later this year. So I will just say this here and now. If I actually get an invite, who knows, I might actually cover it. You know, I'm not necessarily part of the WoW community, but I have no problem covering it because I'm a geek for this stuff. So I'm not ruling it out. So Blizzard, if you're listening, and I've even said this on the podcast, like if you give me a beta invite to Overwatch, I'll cover it. And I will do the same thing for this. If you give me access to Legion, I will cover it, and I will cover it in depth, or as much depth as you want me to cover it. So let Blizzard know. Retell this video to them on Twitter. I don't care. But I am so right now. Here's my overall thoughts on Legion. I'm excited for it right now, but I'm also being skeptically excited. And the reason I say that is because Warlords had a lot of really cool features. 3, 2, 1. That ended up on the cutting room floor. Now, people wonder why I did that pause, because that's how frustrating it is. We were supposed to see a mysterious ogre continent, or some kind of lore towards it. We were supposed to get a whole new area, the Fields of Farallon. That never happened. We were supposed to get a couple of other features that were supposed to make their way into this expansion. They didn't happen. We were supposed to get capital cities. That didn't happen. And so a lot of this, I'm kind of approaching it from the angle of, yeah, that sounds really cool. Let's see if you deliver on it. Because a lot of this just sounded like, and I know this is not the case because an expansion takes years to develop, but it really just sounded to me like, oh, WoW's down to 5.6 million subscribers. Let's throw everything at them to get them to come back. And I can get why people think that way. I know that it takes more time to be able to do an expansion, but I can see why people would think that way. You know, throw everything at it until it sticks. So I'm hoping that's not the case. I'm excited for Legion, way more than I was for Warlords of Draenor. I think this is a really good step in the right direction, but we'll have to see. And obviously not a whole lot of stuff was revealed. There will be a Q&A session on Sunday, and I will try and cover that as best as I can. But I have a feeling that a lot of the major details for Legion will be revealed at BlizzCon 2015, which I believe is in November. So I will also probably be doing a coverage of that, maybe even on Geek News. But that's going to go ahead and do it, because I've been going for almost an hour on Legion, because there's been a lot of stuff to cover. So I hope you guys have enjoyed. I hope you guys either agree or disagree with me. Leave a comment below. Let's have a discussion about it. Do you like what they're doing with Legion? Do you think they're full of crap with what they're doing with Legion? Let's have that discussion, because this is how Blizzard learns. Please, if you guys like the video that I just did, like, comment, and subscribe. I do tons of other things, including more Drak rants or Drak raves in the future. Obviously, I had kind of a sample of both. I ranted about Warlords of Draenor, and I'm raving about Legion. So I hope you guys have enjoyed, but yeah, I'm getting really tired, so I'm going to go ahead and end this video. I will see you guys next time.